So, good morning, everyone. Happy Thanksgiving week. Let's take a comfortable seat and get started. Finding that still point, closing the eyes. Starting to take that nice full breath. Allowing the body to relax into stillness and finding this moment in time where we come together in appreciation. And without thinking about it too much, let the first thing come into your mind, come into your heart. What are you appreciating at this moment? And let that resonate in the cells. Let the body and the mind hear the appreciation, feel the appreciation. And noticing the breath right at the nostrils. Becoming aware of whether the breath is a little bit more open or deep on the left side or the right side. You might not notice it. It might feel pretty even to you. And now taking your right hand, thumb, lay it lightly on the outer right nostril. Remember, you don't have to push hard. And breathe in and out through the left nostril. Feeling and sensing into what we call the heart brain. This place of appreciation. And letting the breath be full and effortless, deep in the body. Then after your next exhale, you can release your hand, pause and breathe. Bringing hands together at the heart. As always, holding intention as we begin class. Maybe an intention of appreciation, maybe something of your own. And allow the class to be exactly what you need. As you exhale, hands can release, eyes can flutter open. And we come back. Alrighty, so let's start lying down on our backs. We'll start with a somatic movement to really drop in. Today, I've got sort of an intention without realizing it. I hadn't really prepared anything, and I found that to be quite curious because I always do. And then I realized, oh, it's because I want to do this, need to do the class focused on the kidney meridian, which is our meridian of energy, deep, profound energy, not wild, crazy energy. So when you're lying on your back, put your legs down, put your arms down, and take a moment to just check in with yourself. Physical body is the gateway in. So finding any sensations. The body is always our communicator for what is happening, not only within us, but around us. Keeps us in the present moment. And so just noticing any sensations or kind of feelings that you have. And then go into the breath body and notice how the body is breathing. Notice if you feel light or open or expansive, or do you feel a little dense, a little tight, a little anxious. All of it is okay. Please don't make a story around it. It's just where you are. And then finally, finding that state of mind. So easy to jump into judgment and storytelling. Can we just notice where we are in the state of mind? Safe place, feeling and sensing in our own body. All right, so the somatic movement that we're going to do today is common, but it's really good. So take your arms out to the side like a T. Bend your knees and put them as wide as the mat. And then let your knees drift over to the left as your eyes drift over to the right. Turning the left palm down and the right palm up. And just take a breath here. You might notice if you've not done any twisting in the this morning, that your body feels a little bit sensitive, I would call it. On your next inhale, let your knees come to center, eyes come to center. Exhale, let your knees go to the right, and your knees go to the right and your eyes go to the left. And when that happens, your palms are turned the other way. Left palm up, right palm down. Stay there and breathe. And noticing whatever sensations are present on this side. And then as you're ready, we'll start to move back and forth on the breath. So the inhale brings you to center, starts to turn the palms. The exhale brings you to the other side. Palms are rotated open. Inhale, come to center. And exhale, turn the palms, turn the eyes, turn the knees. And you keep moving, letting the breath initiate the movement. And remember, when you do this with the arms, if your palm is flat up, like back of the hand is down or the bottom of the hand is down, you can keep moving that hand so that it rotates through the shoulder joint more and more. And you'll notice if you do that, your hands will go higher than your shoulders, especially if you don't have any shoulder limitation. And you'll start to sense and feel from the fingers all the way through the top leg, knee. There's this pull. This is internal massage, this unwinding, I like to call it. And you'll notice right side to left side, it feels really different. Most of us are tighter on one side than the other. You'll notice when you started to move, it felt a little limited, but maybe now that you're going back and forth, it feels a little bit more spacious. Somatic movement is talking to the nervous system. Somatic movement really means working with the intelligence of the body. It is much more than just a shell that helps to hold us in place and walk us around the world. It's got a lot of intelligence and depth. All right, do one more on each side. Finding that spacious freedom, falling into the knowing of the body. Follow that knowing. And after you're done on that second side, then put your legs back down, put your arms down by your side, and then reassess yourself. What shifted? What feels different? And when you're asking yourself these questions, it's really coming more from the body and the wisdom of the body and the heart than it is from your head. Alrighty, so let's bend the knees, roll to the side, and bring yourself up into a sitting position. This practice is going to start with butterfly pose. And as a reminder, butterfly pose, you don't have to have any props at all. If you happen to have them, they're nice to use just to help you stay in the shape. So if you don't have a bolster, I like using blocks. You can put the blocks on your feet and bring your head to your blocks. You can put your blocks in front of you and bring your forearms to the blocks. I like to use my bolster. Put my bolster on my feet and come forward. So butterfly pose is open legs, more like a diamond shape. Support your legs underneath you if you feel too much tension in your hips. Elbows are resting, or maybe hands are reaching, finding that first edge of sensation. Coming into our first shape. And breathing into the expansion here of the back body. And maybe you're noticing other things that don't feel like expansion. Maybe you're noticing other things that feel a little bit more like a contraction. Again, all of that is wonderful connection. And we take the moment to take the breath and find the still point and pause. Now the kidney meridian and the bladder meridian that we're working with today has a lot to do with the quality of energy that we feel on a day-to-day basis. And it isn't the energy that we get from caffeine or chocolate. It's more of a sustained, consistent, more vital, deep energy. And most of us, for whatever reason, may not have a lot of energy. Maybe we're dealing with chronic situations, or maybe we're dealing with a lot of stress, or maybe we're dealing with, a body that's done too much over its lifetime and, it's just exhausted. Whatever the reason is, working with the kidney meridian is a really vital practice for helping us to find that sustained energy. Butterfly pose is one of the most beneficial poses for this meridian. So if you get at any time throughout the week, you feel, like you're tired, like you're exhausted, like there's not good, vital, deep energy, come to this pose. Come to this shape and stay. You feel into the shift that can happen in your body and in your mind. Now, while you're resting in this shape, again, without thinking about it, go to the first intuitive hit that you get. What are you appreciating in this moment? And let that settle into your cells. Let the cells hear you. I taught a class, oh gosh, a while ago. And during the class, there was a lot of talk around gratitude and different kinds of gratitude practices. And one of the profound things that we know is that when we have small little moments of gratitude around the smallest, littlest things that we have in our life, it means more than saying the one big thing, like, oh, I'm so grateful for my family, or oh, I'm so grateful for, the world. Like, it's too vague. Can you bring it into a very specific pinpointed moment or thing or whatever that brings you joy and allows a moment of appreciation? Now, if you have an animal, a lot of times it's your animal. Almost always I say something around, for myself, I always say something around the birds that I see out in front of my window. But lately I haven't been feeding the birds because there's been these squirrels that are just eating everything. So I've had to take a pause on that until I find another option. So whatever those little moments are, creating that opportunity of appreciation and gratitude. Take a nice deep breath. And then slowly, slowly starting to bring yourself up away from the bolster, your legs, and sit up just nice and tall. Pause there for a minute. You were there for a while. And then as you feel ready, if you were using props, move them. Bring your legs in towards the center. Stretch your legs down. And then maybe take your hands behind you. Press down into your hands. Lift your chest up. Give it a little bit of a moment here in a reverse posture, reverse action. The next shape that we're going to go in can be challenging, and I'll give you another alternative if it is. So thinking about the front line of the body and the inner line of the body, we just were working on the outer. I'm going to take the leg. Easy way is foot to the inner thigh. The leg falls open, but it's way up high, so it's much tighter of a motion. Second option is to reverse that. Take your foot behind you so that your knee is still pointing forward, but your foot is right by your hip. And you can see that it's making me tip over a little bit. And so what I need to do is, find something like a blanket. I like this little beanbag thing I have to sit up on. So if I'm going to do it with my leg behind me, I'm going to put it underneath my straight leg sitting bone so that now I'm more square. You don't have to do it this way. You can always do it this way with your leg open, but if you're doing it that way, you probably don't need anything underneath you. Okay, so I'm going to do it with my foot behind because that's not something I would typically do. And I just have a sense that it would be what my body needs. And then sit up nice and tall. And then find your point of forward flexion from the hip. Try to come from the hip rather than allowing your body to just collapse. Come. And then maybe when you get to your end point, you either put your hands on the floor. You could reach out and grab your front leg. I'm not going to do that today. You could use your blocks. Kind of rest on your blocks. Find a place where you can be. And so the key factor here when we're working with these shapes, and you know this, you've been doing it long enough, is if you go into a shape and it's too much, you won't be able to settle. You'll start fidgeting and adjusting and trying to find a more comfortable option. And if that's what's going on, you just need to shift it. That's your body trying to tell you too far, too much. And you're breathing into any of the sensations, having that appreciation for being on your mat today, allowing yourself this gift of precious time for you. While we pause here, what is the one thing that you could do today, aside from this? This is a beautiful, beautiful representation of what I'm going to ask you. What is another thing, I should say, that you could do today that would bring you joy? Maybe it's a walk. Maybe it's a nap. Maybe it's a phone call. Maybe it's painting. What is the one thing you can do to tell your mind and your body that you are worthy, that you enjoy a life of joy and gratitude and appreciation? Moving away from the list of to-dos and the shoulds and the obligations. Take one more breath. And then slowly starting to come up. Once you do that, take a moment and then support your leg in whatever shape you're in so that you can move it forward with your hand. Get that leg straight out in front of you and then sit with your bottom square so that your legs can feel equal. You'll notice there's a difference between two sides for sure. And then as you feel ready, we just go to the other side. So you either take the leg open like you had it or around behind you. I need my little prop. And then we find the place where we want to rest. So taking that nice deep breath, sitting tall, see if you can hinge forward with a nice long spine, and then finding a place where you can rest. The sensations can be anywhere in the body, as you know. Try to move away from perfect alignment and go into really connecting with the sensations that we have. We have this deep inner sense of what's going to be supportive and helpful and what isn't. We know it. We just tend to not listen. Again, ultimately considering what we're doing is building or enhancing our deep, profound energy in the body, the storehouse of vital energy that we need for balance on all levels. as we continue to practice, we continue on our journey today. Just reminding you there's no strain, there's no force, there's no fixing anything, and there's no struggle. We're in the attitude of relaxed attention. Take a nice deep breath. And then when you're ready, slowly coming up. Remember to support your leg in whatever shape you're in so that it can come forward and down without any kind of strain on your joints. Give it a moment here. Now, before we go on to the next shape, which is down on the floor, I want you to do the acupressure point, which is kidney 1. We've done this before. There's a pad of joints right at the base of your forefoot, and just right between your first and second toe, there's a little indentation. And it's really unique and individual for you. So I want you to take your thumbs into those indentations and push. Maybe make little circles, or you could kind of massage it a little or pulse it a little. And one thing that we know that these meridian channels and these endpoints, and if you've ever had acupressure or acupuncture, you'll know this. They're very, they're subtle, and they're not exact. And so if you looked at a diagram and you said, oh, that's where that point is, and you went there and you couldn't really feel anything, it doesn't mean that that's where it is. So you have to be a little creative, kind of intuitively look for this point, and be on purpose, give it a little pressure. Like you're trying to open up a clogged channel. You want to push on it enough so that it actually feels like something's happening. All right. And then go ahead and release all that. If on a subtle level that felt really good, I would encourage you to do that on a regular. Okay, so let's come down onto our bellies. We're going to come into Sphinx pose. Reminding you that Sphinx pose has a lot of different positions. Putting a blanket under your pelvis will lift the floor a little so your lower back won't feel so tight. Putting a bolster or a blanket under your rib cage will help you stay out of your shoulders. Let your feet be relaxed and open. Elbows under shoulders. And then if you don't have anything and you don't want to bother with it, you can always open your shoulders and come down a little on your lower ribs. So you're still in an extension, you're still working with back bending, but you're not as high. Okay, so lots of options here. One of the things that I like to remind people about is that you can put your head on your block. It feels really good to have that on the center of your, forehead. You don't have to do that. Some people like to release their head and just let it dangle. And when you do that, you might notice your shoulders let go a little bit. We're going to play with a couple of different shapes. I'm going to introduce them as we travel along on this path here. So, nice, easy one to begin. Now you're welcome to stay here Or you could try bending your knees and bringing your feet to touch. The soles don't have to touch, just touch your feet together, usually on the inner edges. And with your feet touching, you could draw the feet towards your bottom, keeping the pubic bone heavy and your spine in that nice extension you've been in with Sphinx pose. So this helps to open up the front and the inner channel a little bit more. If it feels too hard, keep your feet down on the floor. Breathing into anything that's present. And then the final option, if you want, if you've got your feet up, this next option might not be available. Take your hands outward away from you on the floor and press yourself up into seal. So if your feet are up and you're in seal, this is fairly strong. Again, if you want to be up on your hands, just let your feet go down and maybe work there for the last minute. And I always like to remind everybody that there is some effort with this class. It's not like you're just laying around doing nothing. I want you to put tension against your tissues on purpose in whatever shape helps you to do that. Soften shoulders, soften jaw. Nice deep breath. And then exhale, let yourself come down onto the floor. Let your head rest on your hands. Pausing here. And when you feel ready and the sort of sensitivity in your body has lessened, push yourself up into tabletop pose. And we'll do a somatic version of cat and cow. So toes are turned under, lifting tailbone and eyes. With your inhale, go nice and slow. Flip your feet flat, exhale, tailbone and head down, rounding spine. So moving back and forth like we did in the very beginning. The challenge here is to go slowly, really sense and feel having great appreciation for being here on the mat, spending time with you and your body. Last round, full cat and cow. And then from here, I want you to bring your knees as wide towards the sides of your mat, feet come together. We're going to come into this wide-kneed child's pose. Couple things you can do here. You can keep your arms out over your head and drop your chest and head down. You can let your head rest on your hands. You can put a bolster underneath your body or a blanket to bring the floor up a little. And just as a reminder, we don't want to make it so that it's a restorative yoga pose where you're just resting. See if you can find some kind of tension. For me, it's with my arms out and my head on the floor. For you, it might be somewhere else. Remember to use your blanket behind your knees, especially if your knees are tender. I'm a big advocate of you know, a lot of us have joint issues. You know, they're swollen, or they've got arthritis in them, or they've got an injury of some kind. And you don't want to go tension against tissues to that pain point. That's not where we want to go. But if we can create some tension on that joint in general, like an overall kind of pressure, it will bring more blood flow, energy to that knee, which will enhance healing. Friend of mine's daughter just had a baby. Beautiful birth. They named her Emerson Rose. And I think about that birth process and how much effort there is and how much tension there is, how much pressure there is, but then how much freedom and ease there is afterwards. Kind of a funny analogy, but we all go through these birthings. We all go through this, you know, these. Well, on a deep level, we think about the cells and the autophagy of the cells, which basically means they die and slough off and new ones come and grow. And this is natural process for our cellular cycles. And we get into trouble with tumors and cancers and issues when these cells don't do that. And they stay conglomerated into a little group and they don't have the ability to have that autophagy. And so all of us on a deep cellular level go through these dying, sloughing off phases, this pressure, this tension, this getting rid of all of the stickiness, I like to call it, so that there's freedom and ease and flow and more new growth, more new energy. And so that's what we're trying to do when we get into these shapes. We're trying to create some kind of pressure against the tissues so that when we remove the shape, we get out of it, it feels so much more open. Take 3 more breaths. And then slowly, slowly bringing yourself out of child's pose. And we're going to come to a seated position. So just allow yourself to come around. So we come back to a forward position. I want you to take your legs out away from your middle line. And again, you can use blocks or bolsters or nothing. Take your legs wide enough so that you feel there's tension going from your inner foot all the way up. Sitting as tall as you can. You're just going to start to hinge forward again, finding that place where you can rest. I'm noticing there's quite a bit of pinpointed tension in one area in my back, so I'm going a little bit easy. I want to see if I can move through and around so that that spot releases. And this is how you work with your body. You have a conversation and you say, what is it that you need? How can I be of service? And you find that point of tension and pause and stillness. And again, taking that moment to, without thinking about it, first thing that comes to mind, what are you appreciating in this moment? being in that energy of appreciation helps us to be in our heart brain. Talked about this last week, where the resonance and the energy is really strong. It's got a very high vibration. And it is where we get these hits of dopamine, these hits of chemistry that stems and starts from this heart brain place. And you've probably heard that, when you hug somebody for, I think it's 20 seconds, you start to release the chemistry, the feel-good hormones in your body. Both of you do it at the same time. I just learned, which I should have known, but I didn't, that this happens with our pets. And here's the cool thing, the pets get it too. So when you're hugging your dog or your cat, or you're snuggling, or you're looking in their face and they're having a moment, there's that heart, brain, feel good hormone connection happening on both levels. And I just find that so wonderful. Take a nice deep breath. And then slowly starting to come up. Again, taking your time. Support your legs to come inward. And then we're going to make our way down onto our backs. Once you're down, bend your knees. And you can choose to do this next shape with your feet on the floor or with your feet off of the floor. So we're just going to go into an easy twist here. So because of what I'm going through with my back today, I'm going to keep my feet on the floor, but you can definitely bring your knees up and twist over. So let's go to the right first. Pick your hips up and go to the left, and then bring your knees over to the right. Remember, you can always use your props to bring the floor up. Stack your legs up on top of each other. Some people like to put the prop between their legs, so one leg is a little bit higher and the other leg's on the floor. Whichever it is you like to do. And then bring your shoulders down on the mat, arms away from you, finding that point of tension. You can turn your head towards the left if you like. Sensing and noticing any holding patterns you might have. These are automatic contractions in the body from habitual patterns over our lifetime. And so when we are in these shapes and we're quiet and still, we might notice that, oh, our jaw is always a little tense, or our shoulder or our leg. And so breathing into and letting go of that. No reason to be that in contraction here. Breathing into the belly. Take a deep breath. And then slowly starting to bring your legs back up. Bring your hips back to the middle. Pause there for a moment. And then when you feel ready, we'll go to the other side. So hips go to the right, legs drift over to the left. And you may use the same props on the other side, you may not. It just depends on where you are. Once you got your legs where you want them, the shoulders are down. Maybe you turn your eyes to the right. Remember to experiment with yourself where the tension is. So if I put my arm straight out, there isn't a lot going on, but if I bend my arm into cactus a little, there it is. Now I can find it. The props are helping you rest in the posture without a lot of contraction and gripping. But you do want to feel that edge of sensation for sure. And as you breathe into the belly, it's an opportunity for you to tap into your vagus nerve, regulating your nervous system. That's actually one of the ways you can build energy, along with working with the kidney meridian and Yin Yoga. Is it funny to think that when we rest like this, when we are restoring and rejuvenating ourselves like this, we actually give ourselves more life-sustaining energy. And it goes against the culture. Not to say that we shouldn't be exercising, not to say that we shouldn't be doing things, but we also need this part. We also need good company, good companionship. Take a nice deep breath. And then slowly starting to come back up. Bring your hips back in the middle. If we're using a prop, just move it out of the way. And from here, I want you to bring your knees to your chest. We're just going to go back and forth nice and slow. Knees to chest, think of somatic movement. And then gently feet on the floor and hips come up off the floor like a little baby bridge. Do that 2 or 3 times, just moving slowly back and forth. Finding that nice, gentle range that's not really about work or effort. Remember, we're not trying to push or strive or effort. It's really more about listening, being with what's present, what your body needs. Let this last cycle be your final round. And then from here, we're going to move into Shavasana. So you can always put your bolster or your blanket or your blocks under your legs. Give yourself a nice release here. Feel free to cover yourself up with a blanket for your nervous system. You can fudge it and just lay there without, but it's so much nicer for you, especially because the weather and the season has changed, for you to use the blanket and cover yourself up. So I think about the blanket being not only for our warmth, but also for our nervous system. And once you're all ready, nice and warm and cozy, you feel like you've got everything set up the way you want it, and your body is starting to find stillness. Take a nice deep breath and exhale into that final relaxation shape. Take a longer and deeper breath. And slowly start to stretch and move, bringing yourself back to your body. And as you feel ready, slowly make your way up to a sitting position, gently rolling to a side, finding your way up. And once you're seated, just pause for a moment. Don't be in a big hurry to jump up and go on to the to-do list. Just pause in appreciation for our practice together and all that the practice of Yin Yoga does for us on a regular, especially if we practice it on a regular. Bringing your hands together at your heart center. As always, in appreciation and gratitude for you and our time together on the mat. Our deep body wisdom and guiding light. May our light always shine brightly, and may we always see the light in each other. Namaste.